morning, students. I'm Dr. Madhavi, Assistant Professor in Economics. Students, in today's class, we are going to discuss about the different types of business cycle. First, we will give an introduction about these types of business cycle. See, all of you very well know about the meaning of business cycle. See, there are so much of fluctuations in these day-to-day business activities. It is considered the business cycle. So in the previous classes, we have clearly discussed about what is business cycle and what are the different stages or what are the different phases in the business cycle, right? The boom period is there. During this boom period, all the economic activities are progress. And if you see this depression period, all the economic activities are very dull, like that we have clearly discussed in the previous class. In today's class, we have clearly discussed about the seasonal trade cycle as well as the long-term trade cycle. The first thing is in this economic growth may appear very good because the income can earn only rise over time if output rises. But quarterly GDP growth can be affected by 4 different factors, and each of these factors has different implications for policy and for general well-being. Random or one-time events. Some of the changes in quarterly growth rates from quarter to quarter are not persistent and may have no particular cause that can be systematically identified or predicted. Other changes are caused by one-time events that have no lasting impact on the national economy, such as the natural disasters that struck the economy in the fourth quarter of 2005. These disasters are widely created with having cost below average growth in the fourth quarter of 2005 and above average growth in the first quarter of 2006. Let us concentrate on the seasonal trade cycle. See, seasonal fluctuations. Normally, economic activity fluctuates in a predictable way over the course of the year. For example, agricultural output peaks at a harvest time and consumption rises during the holidays. Since these seasonal fluctuations have no lasting effect on the economy and do not offer any predictive information about the economy's future path, they are routinely stripped out of the data before it is used by the public. Then let us concentrate on the long-term trade cycle. In the long run, the economic growth is determined by the rate of growth of productivity and capital and labor inputs that determine the overall production of goods and services. See, what is sometimes referred to as the supply side of the economy. But in the short run, growth can be influenced by the rate of overall spending, also known as demand side of the economy. Overall spending includes consumer spending, business spending on capital goods, government spending, and foreign spending on US exports. The spending and production are equalized by prices because prices adjust gradually. Spending can temporarily grow faster or slower than potential growth rate of the supply side of the economy. Recessions are characterized by a situation where the spending is not growing fast enough to employ all the economy's labor and capital resources. Recessions can come to an end because government has used fiscal and monetary policy to boost spending or because spending recovers on its own when prices have gradually adjusted. Economic booms eventually give way to overheating. It is characterized by a situation where spending is growing too fast and labor capital and productivity cannot grow fast enough to keep up. In this scenario, faster economic growth can become too much of a good thing because it is unsustainable. Overheating is calculated by a rise in the inflation because there is a greater demand for goods than the supply of goods. Prices begin to rise. So overheating typically gives a way to a recession. But in order to offset this high inflation, monetary policy is tightened to reduce the overall spending to the point here where it is growing at the same pace as overall supply again. In essence, the policy makers trade off a lower rate of economic growth in the short run to achieve a more stable and higher average growth rate over time. Although there is no foolproof way to differentiate between changes in the growth being caused by cyclical forces and structural forces, movements in the inflation rates offer a good indication. When inflation is rising, growth is probably above its sustainable rate because overall spending is growing too fast. And when inflation is falling, growth is probably below its sustainable rate because overall spending is too sluggish. Inflation is not a perfect indicator of cyclical activity. However, because sudden spikes in the prices of specific goods sometimes cause overall inflation to temporarily change. So these volatile energy prices are the prime example of when a change in inflation may not correspond with the business cycle. Now, let us discuss about the nature of business cycle. So if you see the nature of business cycle, it is very helpful to the organization to be prepared for facing some uncertainties of the business environment. So mainly there are two nature of business cycle. One is cyclical nature and the second one is general nature. So let us concentrate on this cyclical nature. So actually this is the periodic nature of a business cycle. Periodically, it signifies the occurrence of a business cycle at regular intervals of time. However, periods of intervals are different for different business cycles. There is a general consensus that a normal business cycle can take 7 to 10 years to complete. Then if we see this general nature of the business cycle states that any change in an organization affects all other organizations too in the industry. Thus, general nature regards the business world as a single economic unit. See, for example, depression moves from one organization to another and spreads through the industry, right? At the same time, the general nature is also considered as a synchronism. Now, let us clearly discuss about the different types of this business cycle. The writer, Professor James Arthur and Peter, they can classify this business cycle into three based business cycle. First one is a short kitchen cycle. Second one is longer Duffer cycle, and the third one is very long productive phase. It is a short kitchen cycle. Actually, it is very short or minor period of the cycle, approximately 40 months duration. So longer Duffer cycle in the sense is a major cycle composed of 3 minor cycles and of the duration of 10 years or so. So very long quadratic wave, in the sense very long waves of the cycle made up of the 6 major cycles, and it takes more than 60 years to run its course of duration. So let us concentrate on the business cycle theory. See, a business cycle is a complex phenomenon which is very common to every economic system. See, several theories of business cycle have been propounded from time to time to explain the causes of the business cycle. So if we see this business cycle theory, first one is Hartree monetary theory, second one is innovation theory, third one Keynesian theory, fourth one Hicks theory, and the sixth one is Samuelson theory. So these are the different important theories of business cycle. Let us concentrate very clearly. If we see this Hartree monetary theory, Hartree was of opinion that in depression, monetary factors play a crucial role. The main factor affecting the flow of money and the money supply is the credit position by the bank. He made the classical quantity theory of money as a basis of his trade cycle theory. See, according to him, both monetary as well as non-monetary factors also affect the trade. So his theory is basically the product of the supply of money and expansion of credit. This expansion of credit and other money supply instruments create a cumulative process of expansion, which in return increase aggregate demand. So according to this theory, the only cause of fluctuation in the business is due to instability of bank credit. So it can be concluded that Hartree's theory of business cycle is basically depend upon the money supply, bank credits as well as the rate of interest, right? So this business cycle theory also criticized by some economists because this theory completely neglects the role of the non-monetary factors, see, like agriculture, prosperous inventions, rate of profit as well as stock of capital. At the same time, it concentrates only on the supply of money. It increase in the interest rate is not only due to the economic prosperity, but also due to the other factors. Overemphasis on the role of wholesalers. And the final criticism is too much of confidence in the monetary policy. It neglects the role of expectations also. So these are the main criticisms in this theory. Then let us concentrate on the innovation theory. See, the innovation theory of a business cycle is invented by an American economist, Joseph Schumpeter. According to this theory, the main causes of business cycle are over innovations. He takes the meaning of innovation as the interaction and application of such techniques which can help in increasing production by exploiting the existing resources, not by discoveries or inventions. Innovations are always inspired by business, the profits. Whenever innovations are introduced, it results into profitability, then shared by other producers and result in a decline in profitability, right? So this theory also criticized by other economists because the innovation fails to explain the period of boom as well as depression. The innovation may be the major factor of investment and economic activities, but not the complete process of trade cycle. And this theory is based on the assumption of every new innovation is financed by the banks as well as other credit institutions, but this cannot be taken as granted because banks finance only short-term loans as well as investment. So let us concentrate on Keynesian theory. The theory suggests that the fluctuations in the business cycle can be explained by the perceptions on expected rate of profit of the investor. See, in other words, we can say that the downswing in business cycle is caused by the collapse in the marginal efficiency of capital, while revival of the economy is attributed of the optimistic perceptions on the expected rate of profit. Moreover, this Keynesian multiplier theory establishes the linkages between change in investment and change in income and employment. However, this theory fails to explain the cumulative character both in the upswing as well as downswing phases of the business cycle and cyclical fluctuations in the economic activity with the passage of time. Right? So let us concentrate on the Hicks theory. So Hicks extended the earlier multiplier accelerator interaction theory by considering real world situation. See, in reality, income and output do not tend to explode. Rather, they are located at a range specified by the upper ceiling and lower flood determined by the autonomous investment. See, in the theory, it is assumed that this autonomous investment tends to grow at a constant percentage rate over the long run. The acceleration coefficient and multiplier coefficient remain constant throughout the different phases of the trade cycle. Saving and investment coefficient are such that upward movements take away from equilibrium. The actual output fails to adjust with the equilibrium growth path over time. So, in fact, it has a tendency to run above it and then below it. And therefore, it constitutes cyclical fluctuations over time. So, the basic intuition can be shown. So, the general nature of this business cycle states that any changes in this organization affects all other organizations too in the industry. Therefore, the general nature regards the business world as a single economic unit. For example, depression moves from one organization to the other organization. So these are the important aspects in this unit. The remaining aspect we will discuss in the next